A while ago, there was a video about, or there was a couple of videos that, like, it seemed every fucking occult social media content creator was doing, which was the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine. And I'm just going to talk about that because I feel like if I don't have one, my collection of weird occult videos is incomplete. So we're also going to be talking about the element of fire because it's the most masculine of all the elements. Let's get into it. The Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine are two aspects of the divine, which are the projective aspect for the Divine Masculine and the receptive aspect for the Divine Feminine. These two aspects go in hand, and all living things are said to have them within them, according to the Hermeticum, I believe. Now, these are two important and very equally powerful forces, but they work very differently. If you think of the way that fire works compared to the element of water, you will notice the difference right off the bat of how that is the difference in and of itself of how masculinity works versus femininity. Masculinity being a very, it's a very energetic and a very fun, exciting thing that attempts to provide life, if you're talking about the light of the sun, or we get into the dark side of it, which is the infernal fire that burns up the world, because that is also a masculine trait. The masculine traits are always going to be about providing, being projective, and that's really it. Now, I just said that the dark side is destructive, so what gives about that? Well, the dark side of the Divine Masculine being destructive is actually a aspect of the Divine Masculine that a lot of people give it shit for. And the reason why it destroys things is because the Divine Masculine is most closely aligned to the planetary power of Mars. Now, the planetary power of Mars I have an entire video on, but the long and the short is the reason that the planetary power of Mars destroys things is so that there can be more space for more creation. If there was no destruction, everything would just continue expanding, and then the limits of Saturnian influence would be reached, and we would all be like, it would be too much. You know those watermelons that they grow in the boxes and they take on the shape of a watermelon? It's like that. It is exactly like that. The watermelon takes up the space and ends up forming into a box. Well, Mars destroys so that we don't have to reach the borders of the box. Metaphorically speaking, at least. Now, another important thing is that masculine powers actually get more powerful the more that they're tested, which is something that a lot of people seem to not really understand. So, if you go through and you look at the masculine powers, it's the sphere of wisdom, the sphere of Mars, and the sphere of Venus, which we will get into, but the sphere of Venus does get more powerful the more it is tested and the more experience it gets. This is where we get the forging of iron from, the concept that if you take a piece of iron and you start, working it and you start, forcing it into various shapes and you start hammering away at it and constantly heating it up and reheating it, which is the element of fire again, if you constantly keep reheating it and heating it up and then cooling it down and you keep doing these various processes, you can make all kinds of things, from armor to swords to all kinds of things that you would want to forge. And this is kind of a very unique thing to the masculine powers, of they are really the only powers that end up getting more powerful with age and beginning weak. The masculine powers, if you think about it, the masculine powers start weak and become strong. The feminine powers start strong and become weak over time. Think about guys going to the gym. When you go to the gym, you don't start out strong. When you keep going to the gym, you become stronger. The more you go to the gym, the stronger you will become. And if you keep going to the gym, you will eventually become strong enough to where you and the person you started as will look completely different, both emotionally, mentally, and physically, because it is a holistic changing, and it has to do with the microcosm. When applying these masculine acts to the body, you are becoming more masculine. And one of the things that happens to a lot of people is that they will either go down one of two roads of being ultra supportive gym people or dicks. There is no in between. And you will notice that the biggest guys at the gym, the guys who work out constantly, are the most supportive of everyone around them. They are the lovable people who you just want to hang out with because they are just like, yeah, you can fucking do it. All the time. Nothing but support from them. Now, meanwhile, you also have the people who are in the middle there where it's kind of like they're working out the toxicity where it's like, oh, how dare this fatty 2x4 can't get through the kitchen door, go to the gym. God, he should just stay home and stuff Twinkies into his face. He will wrap 5 Twinkies into his face, the fatty. That's the kind of thing that, like, people think stereotypically. But that's not really what, like, gym people do. Because if they're going to the gym, they think of it more as a hobby. And if you think of it as a hobby, why would you want to kick people out of your hobby? And why would you want to gatekeep your own hobby for people you think are going to be good for it? And everyone going to the gym is good, because if more people are at the gym, there's more people to talk about going to the gym with. And it is this supportive attitude which a lot of people associate with positive divine masculinity. The positive divine masculine is the providing force. It is the thing that provides to everyone else. Now, what it provides varies greatly. You know, I mean, if you're in an army, the art of war has entire sections about how leaders should act and how they should provide as an example for their men. But there's also the divine masculine creative side, which will provide creative outlets and provide creative solutions to things. Think Hephaestus in this case, the god who ended up making Zeus's thunderbolts and invented such wonderful things as chains in the bedroom. That is all a different aspect of the divine masculine. And there's a bit of an elephant in the room because I've mentioned the element of fire. A lot of the element of fire, a lot of what it does, depending on which version of the element of fire you're using, is going to be all about providing warmth, heat. It's going to be providing, like, the ability for life, if you're talking about the sun specifically. It's going to be providing all kinds of things. But fire is also destructive. And the destructive side of fire is burning. Fire burns things. Fire does eat up things. And when you have too much fire, like internal fire, not external fire, if you have too much external fire, it's called a house fire, and you should probably leave. I'm sorry about your home. But when you have too much internal fire, and not enough things, like not enough resources for the fire to burn, it's called burnout. And burnout is very bad, because when you burn out, you can't really provide anything to anyone, and you can't really do anything. Now, when you go ahead and you recoup yourself, you regenerate yourself and maybe have a vacation, maybe just spend some time alone, that kind of thing, you can go back and then you can end up becoming much more effective at doing what you're trying to do. Because after that, you learn how to not burn out as easily, which goes back to the improving under stress thing. Now, a lot of people, I can already tell, I think my audience is mature enough to know that the reason I'm talking about the divine masculine first is because I'm a man. So I'm not qualified as much to talk about the divine feminine. However, we're going to be talking about that next time, as well as the element of water. And in order to soothe the people who are going to be like, all masculinity is bad, I'm going to remind you at the beginning that these are two separate but equally important things. And if you don't believe me that femininity is important, stop breathing in. If you don't believe me that masculinity is important, stop breathing out. Okay? Oh, but Dave, that's natural processes. That's That's the sign of Gemini is an air sign, and that's the most androgynous of the signs. Well, yes, but it's androgynous because one half is masculine and the other half is feminine. That's what the fucking twins are. Okay? That's why that's there. So we will be talking about the divine feminine next video. If you like my content, feel free to subscribe. If you have ideas for more content or a question, put it in the comment section down below. If you really like my content, please head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/amateurmagus, where I upload Patreon-exclusive content all the time, as well as for my highest tier patrons, I upload occultic manuals, which are not ritual guides. I don't call them ritual guides for a reason. They're not ritual guides, they're more like a instruction and a kind of a mini tutorial on how to... Think of them more as a primer for how to do a specific ritual technique. And this month's, if you're watching this in the month of May, is going to be all about consecrating water. So and the various applications of that. So it's more than just holy water, I can assure you, but that'll be out later this month. If that sounds like your fancy, or that tickles your fancy, go over there. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hope you're having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy, and the dove is still there.